Fleet Commander Alan Harper stood on the bridge of the Earth flagship Dauntless, staring at the holographic display. The strange object had appeared at the edge of the solar system 3 days ago. Small, cylindrical, emitting an energy signature unlike anything in human records. "Any response to our signals yet?" Harper asked. Lieutenant Olivia Bennett shook her head. "Nothing, Commander. The probe continues scanning our outer defense grid." Harper ran a hand through his graying hair. After 20 years in the United Earth Defense Force, he'd always wondered if humanity would face this moment. First contact. The discovery that humans weren't alone in the universe had been confirmed, but peacefully communicating with aliens, that was proving difficult. Try all frequencies again. Include mathematical sequences and basic atomic structures. Yes, sir. The bridge crew worked silently. Harper studied the alien probe's design. Something about it troubled him. Its configuration suggested military applications. Too many sensor arrays, too heavily shielded. "Sir," Bennett called suddenly, "we're receiving a transmission." But not from the probe. A much larger vessel just emerged from what appears to be a spatial distortion. The holographic display shifted, showing a massive ship that dwarfed the Dauntless. Its hull featured sharp, angular protrusions that gave it a predatory appearance. "Put it on screen," Harper ordered. The main view screen flickered, revealing a humanoid figure with pale blue skin, elongated features, and eyes that seemed to contain swirling galaxies. "Primitive species," the alien said, its mouth movements not matching the words. "Some kind of translation technology. I am Sub-Commander Zelnak of the Zeraxian Empire. Your solar system has been claimed for Emperor Vexthar. Prepare for integration." Harper kept his expression neutral. "This is Fleet Commander Alan Harper of Earth. We welcome peaceful contact, but must inform you that Earth is not available for claiming. We suggest diplomatic." "Diplomacy is for equals," Zelnak interrupted. "We have conquered 27 systems. All have submitted." "Then you've never met humans before," Harper said calmly. "We suggest reconsidering your approach." The alien made a sound like grinding metal, possibly laughter. "Your primitive weapons have been scanned. Your technology is centuries behind ours. You will submit or be eliminated." The transmission ended abruptly. Harper turned to his communications officer. "Contact Earth Command immediately and get Ambassador Wright up here." Within hours, the situation had escalated. 5 more Zeraxian vessels arrived, positioning themselves at strategic points throughout the solar system. Earth Command mobilized the defense fleet, but everyone knew they were outmatched technologically. Ambassador Kevin Wright arrived on the Dauntless looking grim. "They've rejected all diplomatic overtures," Wright explained in the emergency briefing. "They can't believe we're refusing to surrender." "What do we know about these Zeraxians?" Harper asked. Science Officer Bennett activated a display. "Very little. They appear to be an expansionist empire that has never faced serious resistance. Their conquests have been of less developed or pacifistic species. So they've never fought anyone who fought back," Harper mused. "Correct. And they've never encountered humans before." General Nina Rodriguez from Earth Command spoke up on the video feed. "Then they don't know what they're dealing with. Humanity has been fighting itself for thousands of years. War is in our blood." Ambassador Wright tried once more to establish communication, offering trade, cultural exchange, even limited resource sharing. The Zeraxians responded by destroying a research station on Europa, killing 23 scientists. The message was clear. On the Zeraxian command ship, Emperor Vexthar himself joined a communication call, his massive form filling the screen as he addressed Earth's leaders. "Your resistance is illogical. Accept your place as the newest servants of the Zeraxian Empire." President Laurel Chen of the United Earth Government stood tall despite the overwhelming threat. "We will not surrender. And we warn you, Mao, leave our system while you can." Emperor Vexthar seemed amused. "You warn us? Your species will make an interesting study before extinction. I expect your surrender within 1 rotation of your planet." As the transmission ended, Harper looked at his bridge crew. Send a fleet-wide message. Battle stations. The Zeraxians think this will be a simple conquest. Bennett looked up from her console. They have no idea what humans are capable of when threatened, do they? Harper's expression hardened. They're about to find out. The Zeraxian attack began at dawn. Their warships descended upon Earth's orbital defense stations like predators, energy weapons flashing brilliant blue against the darkness of space. They expected quick surrender. They were wrong. Commander Harper stood firm on the Dauntless's bridge as reports flooded in. Station Epsilon was holding despite heavy damage. The lunar base had repelled the first assault wave. Earth's seemingly outdated fleet was proving surprisingly resilient. "Sir, the Zeraxian flagship is signaling," Lieutenant Bennett announced. Sub-Commander Zelnak appeared on screen, his alien features contorted with what might have been confusion. "Your resistance is unexpected," Zelnak stated. "Your weapons should not be this effective against our shields." Harper allowed himself a small smile. "As I mentioned, you've never faced humans before." The battle raged for 12 hours. When the Zeraxians adjusted their shield frequencies, human engineers countered within minutes. When alien forces established a predictable attack pattern, Earth ships broke formation in ways that seemed chaotic, but were devastatingly effective. Lieutenant Chris Morgan led a squadron of small, agile fighters that darted between the massive Zeraxian warships. These tiny craft should have been easily destroyed, but Morgan had developed tactics that confused the alien targeting systems. "Keep it unpredictable," Morgan shouted to his pilots. "Random approach vectors. They're looking for patterns." The fighters weaved impossible paths, dropping electromagnetic pulse devices that temporarily disabled sections of the Zeraxian vessels. Earth's larger ships followed, targeting these vulnerabilities with precision strikes. On the Zeraxian command vessel, Field Marshal Dreskor watched with growing alarm. "These humans fight like nothing we've encountered," he reported to Emperor Vexthar. "They do not follow standard combat protocols. They are primitives." The Emperor snapped. "How are they penetrating our shields?" That question found its answer in the Dauntless's laboratory, where Olivia Bennett had been studying damaged Zeraxian technology. She rushed to the bridge, excitement in her eyes. "Commander, their shield systems have a fluctuation cycle, a split-second vulnerability every 42 seconds. It's barely detectable, but if we time our weapons fire precisely." Harper didn't hesitate. "Send the timing data to all ships. Reconfigure weapons to fire in synchronized bursts." The effect was immediate. Zeraxian vessels suddenly found their impenetrable defenses failing at critical moments. 3 alien cruisers fell in quick succession. By the 18th hour of battle, the Zeraxians did something unprecedented in their conquest history. They retreated. Their remaining ships pulled back to the outer solar system, regrouping near Neptune's orbit. The human fleet had suffered losses, nearly 30% of their ships damaged or destroyed. But Earth still stood. More importantly, they had proven something crucial. Humans could fight back. In the aftermath, Harper and his officers assessed the situation while medical teams treated the wounded. "They'll be back," General Rodriguez stated during the emergency briefing, "with more ships, more firepower." "And we'll be ready," Harper replied. "We know their weaknesses now." Field Marshal Dreskor watched recordings of the battle, studying the human tactics with growing respect. "These creatures adapt quickly," he told his subordinates. "Their technology is less advanced, but they use it with surprising creativity." Emperor Vexthar was less impressed. "Prepare the main invasion fleet," he commanded. "This minor setback will be corrected. No primitive species has ever resisted the Zeraxian Empire for long." Dreskor wasn't so certain. Something about these humans disturbed him deeply. On Earth, unified defense plans were already being implemented. Admiral Paul Fletcher coordinated with military leaders worldwide, pooling resources and strategies. Engineer Jack Rivera worked tirelessly with his team, adapting captured Zeraxian technology to human systems. As preparations for the coming storm intensified, Harper authorized one final transmission toward the retreating Zeraxian fleet. The message was simple, broadcast on all frequencies in multiple formats to ensure translation. Turn back now, for your own sake. The Zeraxians dismissed it as empty bravado. They would learn. The Zeraxian War Council gathered in the grand chamber of their flagship. Holograms of battlefield data filled the air as Emperor Vexthar listened to Field Marshal Dreskor's report. The human victory was merely luck, insisted General Craster, slamming his fist on the table. Their inferior technology cannot possibly stand against our full might. Dreskor looked uneasy. Emperor, these humans fight differently. Their tactics are unpredictable. They adapt quickly too. Enough. Vexthar silenced him with a wave. Prepare our largest battle fleet. We will crush this Earth and add it to our collection of conquered worlds. Meanwhile on Earth, unity had emerged from crisis. Nations that once competed now worked together under a single defense command. General Maria Diaz and Admiral Paul Fletcher stood before a global military council, presenting their strategy. The Zeraxians rely on overwhelming force and rigid battle formations, Fletcher explained, pointing to tactical displays. They expect enemies to follow similar patterns. General Diaz nodded. So we'll do the opposite. Our smaller ships will fight in constantly changing patterns. Our larger vessels will implement Captain Dawson's maneuver strategy. Captain Lisa Dawson had become something of a legend after the first battle. Her ship, the Valiant, had survived direct engagement with 3 Zeraxian cruisers by employing tactics that seemed completely irrational. The aliens couldn't predict her next move because her movements followed no recognizable military doctrine. My crew trained in randomized response protocols, Dawson explained to the council. When the enemy expects us to retreat, we advance. When they expect standard evasive patterns, we create new ones on the spot. In the research division, engineer Jack Rivera unveiled his latest creation, stealth technology that rendered human ships nearly invisible to Zeraxian sensors. It won't hide us completely, Rivera cautioned, but it will confuse their targeting systems long enough to give us an advantage. 5 days after the first battle, the Zeraxian invasion force arrived. Over 300 warships against Earth's fleet of just 70. The humans should have been terrified. Instead, they were resolute. The battle began in orbit around Mars. The Zeraxians expected the humans to defend close to Earth. By positioning their forces at Mars, Admiral Fletcher had already thrown them off balance. All ships implement Chaos Protocol, Fletcher ordered. Human vessels split into seemingly random groupings, attacking from multiple vectors simultaneously. Captain Dawson led a squadron directly into the heart of the Zeraxian formation, a move so reckless that the aliens failed to respond quickly enough. On the Zeraxian command ship, Field Marshal Dreskor watched in growing alarm. They're fighting harder than before, he reported. Their tactics make no sense, yet they're effective. Impossible. Emperor Vexthar hissed. No species fights more fiercely when outmatched. But humans did exactly that. The more desperate their situation, the more innovative they became. Rivera's stealth technology confounded Zeraxian sensors. When the aliens adapted, humans changed tactics again. Lieutenant Chris Morgan led fighter squadrons on missions that Zeraxian military doctrine considered suicidal, yet they succeeded. Ships under Captain Dawson's command performed maneuvers that stressed their structural limits, but achieved surprise attacks that overwhelmed alien defenses. By the battle's 18th hour, the unthinkable happened. Zeraxian ships began to retreat, not in organized formation, but in disarray. For the first time in their long history of conquest, the mighty Zeraxian Empire had suffered a major defeat. In his private chambers, Emperor Vexthar raged while Dreskor quietly studied captured footage of human soldiers. What makes them fight this way? Dreskor wondered aloud. A Zeraxian scientist, Mevlin, replied hesitantly. Our research indicates humans evolved as both prey and predators. They understand fear, yet they've learned to channel it into aggression when cornered. Dresskor considered this insight gravely. Then we may have awakened something very dangerous in this galaxy. On Earth, celebrations were tempered by the knowledge that this was just the beginning. The Xeraxians would return, and Earth would need more than courage to survive. Dr. Samantha Ellis bent over the captured Xeraxian weapon, her fingers moving carefully over its alien components. 3 weeks ago, this technology had been a mystery. Now she understood not only how it worked, but how to improve it. "I've identified the power regulation system," she announced to the research team. "If we modify it with our quantum stabilizers, we can increase energy output by 40%. Across the laboratory, similar breakthroughs were happening hourly. Humans had always been good at taking apart technology and figuring out how it worked. Now, with their survival at stake, that talent had become their greatest weapon. Admiral Fletcher entered the research facility, looking both exhausted and energized. "How soon until the hybrid weapons are ready for deployment?" he asked. "First batch is already being installed on the Dauntless," Dr. Ellis replied. "We've combined Xeraxian energy technology with our missile guidance systems. The results are impressive." What impressed the Admiral most wasn't just the speed of development, but the innovations. Humans weren't simply copying Xeraxian technology. They were improving it, combining it with their own ideas in ways the aliens had never considered. On the Xeraxian homeworld, Emperor Vexthar faced growing unrest from his council. "2 defeats," he shouted. "Impossible. I want the commanders executed for incompetence." Field Marshal Dresskor stepped forward cautiously. "Emperor, our commanders followed protocols perfectly. The humans simply don't fight as expected." "Then develop new protocols," Vexthar demanded. But changing the military doctrine of an empire that had conquered 27 worlds without serious resistance was proving difficult. The Xeraxians had grown complacent in their superiority. Meanwhile, in a secret laboratory, the Xeraxian scientist Mevlin studied everything he could learn about humans. What he discovered alarmed him deeply. "They're advancing too quickly," he reported privately to Dresskor. "Species we've conquered took decades to understand our technology. These humans are mastering it in weeks." Dreskor's expression darkened. "The Emperor refuses to accept these reports. He believes we simply need to commit more forces." "That would be a mistake," Mevlin warned. In Earth orbit, Captain Ryan O'Connor prepared for humanity's first offensive action. His ship, the Intrepid, had been retrofitted with reverse-engineered Xeraxian drives and weapons, combined with human innovations. "All systems ready, Captain," his first officer reported. O'Connor nodded. "Begin jump sequence. Let's show them we can hit back." The Intrepid and its battle group vanished in flashes of light, using the aliens' own technology to appear suddenly within a Xeraxian-controlled system. The alien forces there had no warning, no time to prepare defenses against an enemy they thought incapable of such an attack. When the human ships returned 3 days later, they brought not only victory news, but also representatives from a species called the Trillarians, aliens who had been subjugated by the Xeraxian Empire for centuries. "You fight them?" the Trillarian ambassador asked in halting English. "No one fights Xeraxians in lives." "We do more than fight," Admiral Fletcher replied. "We win." Word spread quickly through the Empire. Species that had bowed to Xeraxian rule for generations began watching human victories with growing hope. In her laboratory, Dr. Ellis unveiled her greatest achievement yet, a defense system that could completely neutralize Xeraxian weapons by inverting their energy signatures. "We don't just understand their technology now," she explained to Commander Harper. "We understand why it works, which means we can make it work differently." Captain O'Connor prepared for his second mission, this time with a more ambitious target, a major Xeraxian supply depot. "Operation Thunderstrike is a go," Admiral Fletcher announced. "Let's remind the Xeraxians that picking a fight with humanity was their biggest mistake." As human forces prepared to depart, intelligence reports revealed growing chaos within the Xeraxian Empire. Several subjected worlds were showing signs of restlessness. The seemingly invincible conquerors suddenly appeared vulnerable. The war was entering a new phase, and humanity was no longer fighting just for survival. They were fighting to change the galaxy. The Tellurian resistance leader, Zaxel, never thought he would see this day. After 3 centuries of Zeraxian dominance, his people were rising up, and they weren't alone. "The humans have destroyed another Zeraxian patrol fleet," he announced to his fellow rebels. Their chittering sounds of approval filled the hidden cave chamber. "It is time for us to act as well." Across 5 star systems, similar scenes played out. Species long crushed under the Zeraxian boot found courage in human successes. The empire that had seemed invincible now appeared vulnerable. Commander Alan Harper stood aboard the Dauntless, meeting with representatives from 3 alien species: the blue-skinned Tellurians, the gaseous Vexneri contained in special suits, and the insectoid Kandorans. All watched him with hopeful eyes. "We don't seek to replace the Zeraxian Empire with a human one," Harper assured them. "We fight for freedom, yours and ours." The alien delegates exchanged glances. Such concepts were rare in a galaxy dominated by conquest. "How can we trust this?" asked the Kandoran representative, her mandibles clicking nervously. "You don't have to trust words," Harper replied. "Judge us by our actions. We've already liberated the Proxima colony and left it to govern itself." On the Zeraxian homeworld, Emperor Vexthar faced the first serious challenge to his rule in 2 centuries. Half his council now openly questioned his handling of the human problem. "The rebels grow bolder by the day," shouted Council Elder Kraz. 3 mining outposts lost this week alone. "The Tellurians have seized our garrison on Victrix IV." Vexthar's eyes flashed dangerously. "Any who suggest retreat will be executed for treason. We will crush these humans and make examples of all who follow them." But in private, even some military leaders had begun to doubt. Field Marshal Drezkor reviewed battle reports with growing concern. The humans weren't just winning through superior tactics. They were inspiring something the Empire had never faced before: hope among the conquered. Science officer Olivia Bennett made a critical discovery while analyzing Zeraxian technology. She rushed into Harper's strategy meeting, interrupting the discussion. "Commander, I've confirmed something important," she said breathlessly. "The Zeraxians didn't develop most of their technology. They stole it from conquered species and barely understand how it works. That's why they can't adapt quickly. They don't grasp the underlying principles." This revelation changed everything. Earth immediately shared this intelligence with their new allies. The Tellurians, it turned out, had been the original inventors of the Zeraxian shield technology. The Vexneri had created the faster-than-light drives before their enslavement. With this knowledge, they could help modify their own creations to counter Zeraxian defenses. Captain Michel Rodriguez led a small, fast attack group on a daring mission deep into Zeraxian territory. Their objective wasn't military targets but prison worlds where the Empire kept troublesome populations. "Approach vector clear," her pilot reported as they neared the infamous detention planet Krell AX. "No sign they've detected us." Rodriguez nodded grimly. "Begin liberation protocol. Remember, we're not just freeing prisoners, we're recruiting allies." The mission succeeded beyond expectations. Thousands of political prisoners from dozens of species were freed, many immediately offering to join the growing coalition against their former captors. The Empire began to fracture from within. 3 provincial governors secretly contacted human representatives, exploring possibilities of defection. Even some Zeraxian military units began to question orders, especially those who had faced humans directly and witnessed their effectiveness, and mercy toward surrendering forces. Field Marshal Drezkor, having survived another of the Emperor's rage-fueled purges of incompetent officers, made a fateful decision. Using secure channels, he contacted Commander Harper directly. "The Emperor plans to deploy planet-killer weapons against Earth," he warned. "He would rather destroy you completely than risk losing his empire." Harper's expression remained calm, but his eyes hardened. Thank you for this information, Field Marshal. Perhaps we can discuss how to prevent unnecessary destruction on both sides. The resistance was no longer just a human fight. It had become a galactic movement, spreading faster than the Xeraxian Empire could contain it. Field Marshal Drescor stood before the remaining Xeraxian High Command, his tall frame rigid with tension. The chamber, once filled with confident generals, now held barely 20 officers. So many had been executed for failure or had died in battle against the humans. The Emperor's strategy is flawed, Drescor stated boldly. Deploying the planet killer against Earth will not end this conflict. It will only intensify resistance across the galaxy. Admiral Vextor rose in anger. You speak treason. The Emperor's will is absolute. The Emperor's will may destroy our empire, Drescor countered. The humans have already liberated 5 systems. Our supply lines are stretched thin. Rebellions erupt daily. The room divided quickly. Half the commanders supported continuing the war at any cost. The others, those who had actually faced humans in battle, sided with Drescor. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Xeraxian Empire fractured from within. On the human flagship Dauntless, Commander Harper received the news with grim satisfaction. So the Xeraxian military has split, he told his officers. Half follow the Emperor, half follow Drescor. Lieutenant Bennett nodded. Our intelligence suggests Drescor genuinely wants peace. He's seen what we can do. And the planet killer? Harper asked. Still being prepared for deployment. The Emperor controls it directly. Harper's face hardened. Then we have no choice. Lieutenant Greg Simmons, is your team ready? The young officer stepped forward. Yes, sir. My squad is prepared for the mission. It was a suicide assignment, and everyone knew it. Simmons and 12 volunteers would take a modified stealth ship directly to the Xeraxian weapons facility, where the planet killer was being prepared. Their chances of return were calculated at less than 8%. Simmons smiled tightly. We all joined up to protect Earth, sir. One way or another, that's what we'll do. As Simmons and his team departed, the human-led coalition launched its largest offensive yet. Ships from Earth, Teloria, Vexinar, and 6 other formerly subjugated species struck simultaneously across multiple systems. It wasn't just a military action, but a message. The age of Xeraxian dominance was ending. Emperor Vexthar raged in his palace as reports of defeats flooded in. Deploy the planet killer now, he commanded. Destroy the human homeworld and crush their spirit. But when his officers tried to activate the superweapon, they discovered its control systems had been sabotaged. Lieutenant Simmons and his team had succeeded in their mission, though at the cost of 10 lives. The Emperor's fury knew no bounds. Find the traitors. Execute anyone suspected of human sympathy. His paranoia accelerated the Empire's collapse. As purges spread through the Xeraxian ranks, more officers defected to Drescor's faction. Within days, Drescor openly declared against the Emperor and joined the human coalition. I have seen how humans treat their prisoners, he announced in a galaxy-wide broadcast. With dignity and respect, I have witnessed them free conquered worlds and ask nothing in return. The Xeraxian way of endless conquest has failed. It is time for change. The final battle came swiftly. Coalition forces, now including thousands of Xeraxian ships under Drescor's command, approached the Imperial homeworld. The Emperor's loyalists prepared for a last stand. Commander Harper led the assault personally, his ship pushing through the defensive lines. Remember, he told all coalition forces, we offer surrender terms to anyone who lays down weapons. We're here to end a tyranny, not a species. This approach shocked many Xeraxian defenders. Raised on tales of their own merciless conquests, they expected similar treatment and defeat. When they discovered humans offered mercy instead of extermination, resistance crumbled. A special operation team composed of humans, Telorians, and defected Xeraxians infiltrated the Imperial Palace. They found Emperor Vexthar preparing to activate a hidden doomsday device that would destroy the planet rather than surrender it. The team, led by Commander Harper himself, stopped the Emperor moments before activation. Vexthar, his arrogance undiminished even in defeat, glared at the human commander. "You should have run when we first appeared in your system," the Emperor snarled. Harper shook his head. "No, you should have run when we warned you." The former throne room of Emperor Vexthar now served as the meeting chamber for the newly formed Galactic Cooperative. Representatives from 27 species sat in a wide circle, no seat higher than another. At one position sat Commander Alan Harper, now serving as Earth's ambassador. "The last Zeraxian resistance stronghold surrendered this morning," announced Dreskor, who represented the reformed Zeraxian government. "The empire that stood for 1,000 years is officially dissolved." A moment of silence filled the chamber. For most species present, they had never known a galaxy without Zeraxian dominance. The change seemed almost unbelievable. "What happens to the former imperial worlds?" asked the Tellurian delegate. "Each system will determine its own governance," Harper replied. "The cooperative offers protection and trade, but not control. That was the old way." This approach, allowing worlds to choose their own path, was revolutionary in a galaxy accustomed to conquest. Many delegates still struggled to understand the human concept of self-determination, but they appreciated the results. Outside the chamber, ordinary citizens of 100 worlds watched the proceedings via transmission. Streets that once fell silent under Zeraxian patrols now filled with celebrations. Species that had been enemies by imperial decree discovered shared interests and complementary abilities. Olivia Bennett, now directing the Cooperative Scientific Division, worked alongside the Zeraxian scientist Mevlin. Together, they had established programs for cultural and technological exchange between former enemies. "Your species continues to surprise me," Mevlin admitted as they supervised the conversion of a weapons factory into a medical research facility. "You could have destroyed the Zeraxians completely after what they tried to do to Earth." Bennett smiled. "That would have made us no better than Vexthar. Besides, your people have much to contribute when not focused on conquest." Across the galaxy, reconstruction efforts brought diverse species together. The Vexinari, natural engineers, helped rebuild damaged infrastructure. The agricultural expertise of the Kandorans addressed food shortages on devastated worlds. Humans provided innovation and adaptability that accelerated recovery. On what had once been a Zeraxian military base, Captain Lisa Dawson oversaw training for the Cooperative's peacekeeping force. Recruits from 15 species learned to work together, each bringing unique strengths to the unit. "Coordination is key," Dawson instructed as teams ran through exercises. "The diversity that makes us different also makes us stronger when we work together." Former Emperor Vexthar, now imprisoned on a remote world, received a visitor, Admiral Paul Fletcher. "Have you come to gloat?" Vexthar asked bitterly. Fletcher shook his head. "I came to understand. Your empire conquered half the galaxy. You must have been doing something right before you encountered us." Vexthar studied the human with his galaxy-filled eyes. "We were strong. We took what we wanted. It worked for a millennium until we met humans." He paused. "What makes your kind different?" Fletcher considered this, perhaps because our history is filled with both tremendous cruelty and extraordinary kindness. We've seen the worst we can be, so we strive for better. Throughout settled space, a phrase began to spread among spacefaring species: "Beware the humans." But unlike before, when it would have been a warning about a dangerous enemy, it now carried a different meaning. A reminder that appearances could be deceiving, that technological advancement alone didn't determine strength, and that compassion could exist alongside formidable power. In the Cooperative's first year, 3 more species joined voluntarily, something unprecedented in galactic history. Trade routes expanded, cultural exchanges flourished, and scientific breakthroughs accelerated through collaboration. On the anniversary of the final battle, Admiral Fletcher stood at a viewport on Earth's orbital station, watching ships from dozens of worlds arrive for the commemoration. Lieutenant Bennett joined him, following his gaze to the stars. Did you ever imagine this when the Ziraxians first appeared? Fletcher shook his head. I expected survival at best. Not this. What do you think comes next? She asked. Fletcher considered the vast galaxy beyond the former Imperial borders, unexplored regions that might hold new wonders or dangers. I don't know, he admitted. But whatever's out there, I suspect they'll learn the same lesson the Ziraxians did. What's that? Fletcher smiled. That humans make better friends than enemies. In the endless depths of space, the message continued to spread from world to world, system to system. The humans had arrived on the galactic stage, and nothing would ever be the same again.